Good news. Dr. Keith Canner is back to show us how we can build and create a positive parenting environment for our families. Welcome back to
Taylor,
Primetime.
I like the intro. That's good.
Isn't that good?
But it's true. We're trying to make things better for families. That's what we're trying to do.
Yes,
Yeah,
and if we
works
start, we have a firm foundation.
Start early.
Hello.
Yeah.
Maybe world peace someday.
But it's one of those things that there's no book about how to become a parent. There really isn't. I mean, you have to kind of use your own style and realize you've got good and bad experiences from your own life. So getting some information about kind of what works and what doesn't, from research and things like that, it's good to have.
You know what I thought was really funny? It's weird. Like some people learn from their childhood. They take the good, but they also, or they'll leave the bad, and then so they grow from that and evolve. Some people actually replicate good and bad.
Most do, because we're creatures of habit, and you internalize and take things in from your earliest objects of identification, which would be parents. So you take in from you what you learn about how you were taken care of. It starts very, very early, and then that becomes worked into your mind, and then typically people start to repeat that pattern.
Even if it's bad, we're talking. Even if it's abuse, people will mimic that behavior.
Well, parents begin as idealized in the child's mind. Idealized means there's nothing the parent can do wrong, and part of that's because you're completely dependent on your parent. So whatever they do, how they treat you, it's what you know, and that becomes your survival mechanism. Very, very important, and it's worked until you, if you can, de-idealize your parents, which means that you can see that your parents are like human too and they make mistakes, but that's not something that tends to happen until usually, it starts at 2 with, terrible twos and saying no, but as kids get older and go into teenage years, that's when we really see them, taking a stand. You're not right all the time, you think you know everything, and that's where we see the teenagers. But there are some kids who don't move from that. In other words, they stay fixed in that whole thing that, depending upon what my parents have said to me, is how I feel and how I'm going to end up feeling, and they feel kind of stuck that they can't change that. So it's very important what you do early on with your kids. But if you can stand back and say, yeah, that was a horrible experience, I'm not going to do that to my kids, that's a great insight, but a hard insight, and not everybody gets that.
Yeah, and it's always because people get triggered too, and they go right back into auto mode.
Well, you start going out with people who are like your parents.
Right.
You keep doing the same thing again because it's familiar, habitual, even if you're not happy. It's all you know.
Very destructive, though, and it's sad.
It can be.
Yeah, so that's going to be a whole nother episode. We're going to talk about that. We need to get
questions.
For time's sake, let's get to these questions that were sent in.
Let's see what we got.
Our first question, I'm a parent and I unfortunately have fairly low self-esteem. How can I make sure that my child grows up as a confident adult?
It's a great question. Parents are models for their kids. And the first thing I would say to this person is, take a look at why you have low self-confidence yourself. As a parent, get some help, figure it out, because your kids are going to learn from you. But the basic tenet about how to build your child's self-confidence is they have to feel successful at what they're doing, not what you tell them. It's not, I'm proud of you, it's you must be proud of yourself. So the more that we see kids act successful, and as parents, we reinforce how good that must feel to them, confidence builds. But kids have to see that they can actually do it before they actually believe it.
But it's also good to reinforce it and tell them you're proud of them. They need that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, but proud of them, I'm really happy. But you want to go for the inside, but doesn't that feel good to you too?
That's why I like setting goals, small goals that they can accomplish, so they have that feeling of accomplishing the goals that builds that confidence. It's
a great question, because a lot of times kids will try to do things they can't do, or parents will push kids to do things that they want them to do and the kids can't do, and it's a setup for a failure, because
a lot of parents live vicariously through their kids.
Correct, and don't know it.
Yeah.
And then there's all this pressure placed on their child about, you've got to be a football player or something, and the poor kid's going like, oh my gosh, what if I don't make it?
Or I don't even like football, and I'm afraid to tell my dad that I don't like it.
I like art, or something different, and it's
the
so
next
important.
thing you know it, they're playing college football and they're inventing girlfriends on the internet.
See, so we should talk about that one. We should talk about that one too. That's a good story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I've got some insight on that.
Yeah.
But the point is that it's very important that your attitude towards your child, if you believe in your child and you help them believe in themselves, you're building self-esteem.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's really important that parents realize that how you treat your child, what you believe towards your child, is what they believe towards themselves early on. It changes when they get older, but if you doubt your child, they feel doubtful. If you feel optimistic, they feel optimistic. It works that way really early.
They mirror their parents. They really
your
do.
attitude, parents' attitude, is so important.
I think that's really, really important.
Be positive.
I
be
know
loving,
there
be
are
supportive.
times I have come home from work and I want to just be by myself, or I'm in a bad mood, whatever, and you have to fake it till you make it.
Well,
you have to really believe it and talk yourself into just being joyful and being great for your kids.
Well, parents, working parents, you got to take a break. I mean, when you come home, before you like walk in, take 5 deep breaths, get yourself centered, put on some pajamas because your kids are hungry for you. Yeah. But you got to like take care of yourself first, and then remember them and try to be loving, because they'll eat that up.
Yeah, they will.
All right, what do we got?
Here's our next question. In your blog, you focus on the importance of the father.
Yeah.
What can I do as a single mother? How can I compensate for that? So this is important because sometimes I have seen in my 28 years of raising children, I have seen a new trend of fathers that they're more, they partake in the parenting more and more.
More maternal. They're more maternalish.
Yes, they've evolved. They've evolved. But nice? There are still fathers who are absent fathers.
Yep.
So how do you handle both situations like that?
Well, 2 different things. One, it's very important that if you are trying to co-parent with a non-invested parent, remember that your time with your kids is what's the most important. They're going to make their mistakes. They're going to do things their way. But it's when you have your kids to yourself that you can show them the important things. You can help them get homework done. You can make sure that they're eating right. At least they're getting that from you, and it helps compensate for the other. So that's a really, really, really important thing to think about. So you can compensate on your own time. But we were talking about the notion of the fathers and how important that is. That as kids separate from their moms early, because they all have to do that. I wrote an article called Why Moms Get Dumped by Their Kids. It really makes moms feel good, because you're supposed to get dumped because they have to break up with you to be independent from you. And that's where the dads come in. So the dad's attitudes towards kids is very important, because they represent a first movement from mom away, and that's why the dads need to be really supportive and encouraging, just like the moms with the kids. And also make sure that... I'm
feeling sad when you're talking about this, but I have 2 older daughters, and I remember the breakup very well.
Yeah,
but it is important. It's a rite of passage. It has to happen. Yeah. And a father's place is very important in a child's life. Female or male, it doesn't matter.
But the question was about, if you don't have that, what do you do? Well, you have extended friends. You have friends, you have uncles, you have aunts, you have grandparents, just really good people that you know. Kids are like sponges. Yeah. Look, if boys like to hang out with, fun people, right? So if you introduce some good role people to them, friends of yours, well, you don't have to like date them. You don't have to like, oh my gosh, a lot of women get worried. I need to get a boyfriend, or a guy says I have to get a girlfriend to represent that. You don't. Friends. Yeah. And teachers and coaches and all these other people are all influences, so don't worry about that. She'll be all right.
Surround yourself with quality people, folks.
Yeah, it's so important.
They're out there.
They are.
And your kids are worth it.
Yeah, it's important.
Great advice, as always. Can't wait to have you back on Friday.
We're going to talk about, are we talking about middle children or divorce and PTSD?
Birth order, or do we want to go to man-tie?
Ooh, we could do that too.
Well, we'll figure it out. Either way, it'll be good. Trust us.
It'll be fun. Yeah,
okay, thank you. We got to take a quick break.